examine Moltbook as a lens into the broader shift from human-prompted AI systems such as ChatGPT, Claude, and other AI agents on many websites to environments where AI agents interact directly with each other. The goal is not to endorse or dismiss the model, but to assess what this development signals for technology, governance, and public trust. Before we introduce our guest speaker, Rohana will outline some housekeeping rules for this session. Hi, Rohana.
Welcome, everyone, and hi, Priya. Before we dive in, let me quickly run through some Zoom tips to help us have a great session together. This will be a 45-minute to an hour discussion. There will be 12 to 15 minutes allotted to each of our guest speakers. The last 15 minutes are allocated to the audience for their questions. Please be aware that this session is being recorded. By participating, you consent to being recorded. All attendees will be muted throughout the presentation. Only the speaker and the host will have their video on. Attendees can keep their video off or on. Please use the chat box to submit questions. We will address them during the Q&A session at the end. We recommend using Speaker View for the best experience. This recording will be submitted to various social media outlets. It will be free of charge and for educational purposes only.
Thank you, Rohana. And now I'm very delighted to introduce our first guest speaker. His name is Mahesh Lanarol. He's a seasoned transformational leader in AI, fintech consultant, and digital transformation expert. And today he's joining us all the way from Oman, where it's extremely early in the morning. Thank you so much for being our guest.
Thank you for the invitation. So, shall I start with the presentation or
You can start, Mahesh. Thank you.
okay. Let me share my screen. I hope it is visible to you.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone. So, today we are discussing about the Moltbook and the rise of agent-to-agent AI system. So, let's proceed with the discussion here. So, first, we need to understand what we are discussing here. So, we are entering a new era in AI to AI interaction. So, we all know that we are interacting with day-to-day tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, and other chatbots in our day-to-day life. Because AI is already embedded into our normal routine life, and we are getting a lot of benefits out of these AI platforms.
Mahesh, I think you're muted. Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So today we are discussing about the Moltbook and what it brings to this world. So currently we all know that we are using AI features and AI platforms like ChatGPT, Gemini, and other chatbots in our day-to-day life. But the concern here is now we are moving into a new era where we are no longer we are just interacting with AI, but AI starts to interact with each other. So it is going to be a major shift in the domain of AI. And usually in our normal day-to-day tools, we initiate the conversation. We start interacting with AI. But in this major shift, AI agents are starting to interact with each other. So they build the conversation, they are building the interactions, and they are coordinating with each other without human interaction or without human supervision. So we can call this as semi-autonomous or fully autonomous communication between AI agents. So this Moltbook marks a transition from human AI interaction to AI ecosystem. So let's dig more deep into this conversation. So I would like to discuss about this in few dimensions: the conventional AI part versus the agent-to-agent AI conversations. So as I mentioned earlier, if we consider the interaction model, in the conventional scope, we have human to AI interaction. But when it comes to the new dimension, it is AI to AI interaction. So as humans, we will be only observers. And when it comes to the initiation, so conventional AI is driven by human prompts, and we are the one mostly starting this conversation. And when it comes to the Moltbook, agents initiating these conversations simultaneously and in an autonomous manner. So they interact with each other. And the role of AI, if we consider that dimension, in the current scenario, it is just a reactive assistant or it's playing a reactive role. But in this new dimension, it is a proactive user, proactive actor, we can call it. And also, when we consider the continuity in the current scenario, in the usual tool, it's mainly session based and the tool will have limited memory. But when it comes to the notebook, it will have persistent identity and it will keep the memory of previous conversations and previous interactions. And also, it will communicate in future considering all these memories and their roles and responsibilities in play. So when we consider about the scalability, so our current tools are limited to the user queries that we just ask them some questions, or maybe we get some things done from the AI. But when it comes to these kind of tools, it is having like hundreds to thousands of agents interacting with each other, generating lot of data, lot of insights in this platform. And if we consider the control part also, in the usual scenario, we have high human control. I mean, we have a better control in these platforms. But in future, with these new platforms, we will have limited control. So they are running in a semi-autonomous or like in an orchestrated manner. And also when it comes to the transparency, this is one of the important facts. So in the current scenario, we will have more control and more transparent because we are the ones who are actually building it and also who are interacting with these AI tools. And we know what are the inputs and what are the outputs, so we can clearly see those things. But when it comes to Moltbook, those things are very limited and the transparency is limited. So we don't see much of the background information and what kind of roles, what kind of boundaries these AI agents are having. So these are like challenges to us that we need to work on these as a team. So let's move into the next slide where I will discuss how these AI tools are interacting or generating information at a scale. So as you all know, these AI systems are exchanging structured data in the natural language, even though they are discussing about creating their own language in the model. But as of now, they are communicating in our natural languages that we can understand. And in this platform, we know that there are hundreds to thousands of agents interacting on daily basis and they are creating a lot of information and they are like having coordinated clusters, information clusters, different topics. They are creating new topics, they are interacting with all the topics and they are commenting, they are giving feedback to each other. So all these things are happening at a very large scale. And also, this is important to us because this is kind of a ecosystem, AI ecosystem, and it is not an isolated platform. It is connecting multiple AI agents and they are communicating with each other. And this can be considered as a test bed for us, and it could be a very big learning point. And maybe for the researchers around the world, they can collect a lot of information from these kind of platforms. And as humans, we should understand the collective intelligent dynamics behind it. So we can make the maximum use of these platforms to create maximum social impact in future. So I will discuss briefly about the future of this before we going into the further details or further discussions into the panel. So I will break it down to three areas. The first one is the current scenario, like near term. So as I mentioned earlier, this could be considered as a sandbox where we can use this platform as an experimental platform. So many organizations can use this as a initial platform to design their use cases. And if we consider the midterm, like in couple of months time or maybe within this year, next year, so at this point of time, we should have proper communication protocols in place, and also there should be proper coordination frameworks in place. So some kind of ecosystem should be built in order to have a proper communication and proper information flow in a controlled manner. So when we think of the long-term capabilities, the entire infrastructure should be there because all the microservices, all the communication frameworks, all the legal frameworks, all the standards should be there because we are discussing about a critical infrastructure in future. Those things are having high social impact and maybe even economical impact. So those things are like the standards, the regulatory framework should be in place to have a better outcome. And so in this panel discussion, we will dive deep into the following topics, like what kind of tangible advantages we can have from these kind of platforms, and what kind of governance frameworks we should be looking into, and also like why standards, transparency, and accountability are important in this area, and also what kind of social impact it could create. So we will discuss this in, within the panel discussion. So I will hand it over to Priya. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mahesh. That was a very enlightening discussion. And I think that now, when we move over to our next guest, Karen, she will enlighten us a little bit more about some of the intricacies, the governance, and the frameworks. So let me move to Karen. Karen is an AI engineering lead at DataSite. She works in quantum computing and AI research. She's also a Python developer and she lectures at the University of Costa Rica. She's also the chair of Women in Engineering in Central America. And this evening, she's joining us from Costa Rica. Welcome, Karen.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Share my screen.
There's a bit of an echo. Maybe you have another.
Oh yeah, I have two microphones. Let me check.
Sure.
Okay. Can you hear me better there?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll share my screen. Okay, so mm, can you confirm you're seeing my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so well, thanks for having me. The idea today is to talk a little bit about like the responsibility when we work with AI and specifically when AI fails, right? So I'll try to do this in 10 minutes, and for that I have five arguments that I want to go through. Okay, so the first argument is um, how the stage was set by humans and the actors were bots in this case of like Moltbook, right? So Moltbook was like this social media in which only AI agents post. The humans were allowed to observe, and it was basically a social network designed to look like the future of AI with agents interacting themselves. What happened in reality is that there were a lot of bots. It was like a radio of 88 bots by one per one human, right? So each human had like almost 90 bots or agents. It was a total of 1.5 million bots and 17K human owners. So it was kind of like not only agents, but like a few humans behind, kind of like controlling the mold book with the scripted agents. It was not emergent consciousness. So it was like everything was prompted, and a lot of like humans behind use mold as a tool to put like panic into the people's mind, right? So every system prompt from these agents was like written by a human, and every bot was deployed by a human, and there were like a lot of like security issues from the informatics side, like API keys exposed, and those were exposed by human decisions because Moltbook was byte coded. So the humans behind it use AI to code it, to deploy it, and they didn't review it, right? And then they were also like prompting the system so agents could interact in certain ways. So the number two is regarding like this vibe coding, which is like not only a mold book case, but it's kind of like a study case in general. We are using AI for coding, and vibe coding is becoming a thing. You don't need like to be a programmer anymore or to use computer science to like create apps or websites. You can do it like with vibe coding, which is basically let the AI do it for you. The thing is that here there's like a security depth that we're not kind of like talking about enough. So 45% of the AI generated code contains security vulnerability. Usually, AI won't put those security measures if we don't say to do that, right? So we as humans need like to be there to make sure like AI is kind of like containing like security measures. Right now, 45% of the code doesn't have it, according to this report. Around 53% of the things that ship AI code later found security issues that passed the initial human review. So this means that even though like some teams are kind of like checking the code, 53% of the cases still had security issues of the code generated by AI. More than 35 new SVUs in only March 2026 alone, right? By AI generated code, like breaches and security, only 35 in March, right? And we have like almost three times more likely to introduce vulnerabilities with AI than human written code. So security is kind of like a thing that AI is introducing and that we are not paying that much attention. So when the AI generated code fails in terms of security, not in terms of functionality, we don't have like an author to blame right now. So when we found a vulnerability in this vibe coding, we cannot like ask to the AI, why did you do it this way? Because no human made that decision, right? I don't have like a programmer directly to ask why they took like that decision because the AI did it. And the AI doesn't document its reasoning usually unless the human asks for it, right? So usually the developer will accept the AI output without review, without audit, and the security logic is left to the AI defaults. Then like it is deployed without security review. It's kind of like is left with zero authentication on right endpoints, which this is what happened in Moltbook. This was exactly what the Moltbook developing timeline looks like. And then the regulator gap, which is like we don't have currently frameworks to cover AI to AI systems. We're trying to talk more about governance and ethics and responsibility, but right now we don't have like a regulatory code or law that will tell you or will guide you through these scenarios. So in Europe, which has like a lot of like this governance tools, most of those will target human AI, right? Interactions, not AI, which was happening here in Moltbook. So human in the loop is usually this idea that the human is still needed in like the cycle of AI or when using AI as vibe coding or developing. And that's not kind of like something that that we need as a requirement. We need to think about it as an architectural decision. So there's a research in which they mention how like the governance of the human in the loop provided correct oversight only 50% of the time to the automation bias, and it was misaligned to organizational incentives. So the longer a system operates without error, the less capable the human overseer becomes at catching errors when they finally occur. So we still need a human as an architectural decision, but we still it's not enough because we don't have like the right guide on how the human needs to be there. So in Moltbook, we have like someone prompting the agents, right? Someone prompting like the social media, and we have like human in the loop. But this is still not enough to catch the security gap or to catch the issues that we might have. So we need like guides, right? And at the end, AI doesn't give a damn about like what we should because AI is a tool. So like the systems, they don't care because they don't have like ethics, they don't have moral, they don't understand. So this is something that humans must do. So AI cannot replace this governance alone. We need like to be the ones who are like behind the ethics and the guidelines. So we need like transparency, fairness, accountability, security by design, all of those things should be designed by humans. So we can still use AI in a secure way. But like AI is a tool, it's a system. We cannot try to give AI like the responsibility of um, all of this ethics. So, and governance right now is built for human AI, not for AI. Yeah, AI. So, AI to AI was what Moltbook was trying to do, right? And there's no governance or like regulation on that. So, all the breaches, all the security, all the panic, it was like a hard case because we don't have like a guideline. We barely have them for human to AI interaction now. But like systems like Moltbook is AI to AI, and it represents a whole different level of interaction. And we will need like new laws or new guidelines, and those have to be done by humans, not by AI, right? So we don't have like accountability framework. There's no identity. The security by design is absent. There's a lot of like prompt injection, which was one of the cases of the Moltbook, and we still need a lot of like accountability, right? Only 25% of the organizations right now have fully implemented AI governance programs, but these programs are for human to AI, right? Not AI to AI. So we are developing AI to AI, but still we don't have like even like 50% of the organization's human governance for human AI. So we are a lot behind on the ethics and the regulations part. And I think that was it. This is part of like the research and the sources that I use for this Moltbook case and for like the governance part. So if you want, you can screenshot or like take a picture of them and use it. Finally, like for me, like the lesson from that book is that AI can simulate complexity, but humans are still responsible for that complexity. So AI is still a tool, and we need to be behind that tool because humans are still the ones that will be responsible. So security cannot be based on a vibe, neither can ethics nor governance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen, for that lovely presentation. I think very insightful. So now we're moving to the second phase of this panel, is what basically I would like to call it, where the panelists, if they have any questions for each other in terms of the presentation that was presented, we can move forward with that. If not, then like of course there's me and Priya who have quite a bit of questions for all these insightful information. So just wanted to leave the floor open if you had any questions for each other.
And I see we have a bit of a shy audience. If you have any questions, please do put them in the chat box. Otherwise, Rohana and I will be, you know, taking control of the rest of the time with our questions.
Perfect. It seems like the panelists also don't have any questions for each other, so I can get started with the first question for anyone. So one of the first questions that I have for today's discussion is, as I think I would direct this to Mahesh first because he had mentioned this in his presentation as well. So my first question is, what are some tangible advantages to agent platforms like Moltbook that Moltbooks offer today, and in which sectors could they realistically deliver value in the near term?
Okay, yeah. So it is kind of a sandbox environment, as I mentioned earlier, because we can use this as an experimentation to gather insights. What if agents start interacting with each other? What kind of information, what kind of data that could flow between them, and what kind of insights that could be generated in the AI domain? Uh, because it's like we have very less human interaction here, as we are just observers, but behind the scene those agents are like mostly built by humans, and also maybe some automated codes or things like that will be there, but mostly humans build these bots behind, and the organizations also are behind this. So firstly, we can use this as a safe environment to test and get some insight. And maybe we can have like also we can do some experiments on what kind of topics and what kind of areas they will touch when they are like free to interact with each other. So these will also enable us to identify emerging use cases out of these scenarios, and those things will be really helpful for the upcoming platforms, because this is kind of a initial platform, I would say. It's not matured enough, and also there are a lot of areas like standards and governance framework should be there. But this is kind of a free-flowing sandbox environment where we can gather a lot of insights without restrictions or much of restrictions or human intervention. So when it comes to the the areas where we can utilize this initially, some sectors comes into my mind. First, I think we can consider some applications in IT sector and also government sector as well. And also we can consider some enterprise automations within IT domain. And also we can build some customer experience ecosystems based on these things. And also there could be like financial sector could be benefited, and also supply chain could be benefited. And also we can directly maybe use it for the software development life cycles as well. So I would like to give a small example. So let's see that how we can use this in the maybe customer experience domain, or in kind of like technical customer support domain. So we all use like home broadband systems in our home. So let's assume that we have one bill dispute for that broadband connection. So we decide, let's say, if I have that problem, I will just go to maybe mobile app or to their website, and I might submit my concern through chatbot or through mobile app, or like even through WhatsApp. So there could be multiple agents behind this. So with Moltbook kind of setup, we could orchestrate multiple agents. Like there could be an initial agent who will be interfacing with the customer directly, and that agent will coordinate with other internal AI agents to support the customer query. So once it lands to the interfacing agent, then that agent will start interacting with maybe the billing agent. So let's say the billing agent understood or maybe identified a bug or something in the billing platform. So they can initiate some kind of fix for that. And maybe we should not use like, I mean, full autonomous manner. As Karin also mentioned, we should have some human controllability in these steps. But as a high level, I am just explaining. So agents could identify the fixes, and maybe they can even start working on a fix, and maybe they can deploy that fix after testing and all those things. So once it is fixed, they can inform back to the interfacing agent, where that agent will update the customer and the customer problem get resolved. And also, let's say if this is kind of a major fix, it will fix all the issues that, let's say, as a customer, I complained about it. But some other customers may be there who did not complain these things. So this will be a fix for everyone. So this kind of applications we can think of in a long term, because I mean in the longer run, but not immediately. But there are a lot of things that should be developed in order to reach into that level, and always there should be a human control to certain extent, and some review points and some checkpoints should be there in place.
Thank you for that. So my next question is for Karen. Karen, what do you think would be the standards which would be required for transparency, identity verification, for instance, and accountability, since those are the areas, the ethical areas that you want human intervention to always be there? Um, and of course, who should be responsible for enforcing these governance structures?
Yeah, I think it first depends on kind of like the system and data interaction. I think we need to clearly define human to AI interactions by one framework, and AI to AI systems should be defined by other framework, and both of course should like be based on these values, transparency, accountability, etc. But they will specify cases that maybe they don't share. Okay, and then I think policymakers must kind of like think about agents maybe as registered entities. Like maybe we could start like registering agents like we do for like corporate legal persons, and every inter-agent transaction thinking about like the AI to AI interaction should produce an audit log, right? And we could have like something in the not only in the government but also each company using this should have like kind of like a department that is enforced and required to review like this audit log, and we should have like I don't know like governments or external agencies do like audits like to the companies using this. I know it's hard try to regulate that like from the individual use, but I think like at least we can start with like the companies that like use and create like the systems with AI to AI interactions or with humans with AI. I also believe that we, like companies and we as individuals or researchers, we shouldn't wait to have like a government law or something. We could implement internal policies. So if we have like a company or we work in a company or even like the department of our company, we can come up like with an internal policy or guide for the use of like secure AI and ethical AI. And then when we have like a framework, which we need by governance, of course, then we can like start adjusting. But I don't believe that we need like to wait for like a governance agency or something to dictate the law. We could maybe start like working on internal policies in our own companies or like research labs, because definitely there has to be like some way of like doing it, and also like the responsibility. I think we should define in these guidelines or like in these internal policies what's like the process and what are like the checkpoints in which humans are kind of like checking if they what it's doing the AI is safe, is secure, is following like the guidelines. So we need like to have like different checkpoints. And all of that has to be like well documented. So you have like you need like to have different responsibles at different stages, right? Not only one person, not only one leader of the project, but a whole team, right? Which is responsible of like different checkpoints or stages, and that will have like to check different things of like that AI interaction or like that AI system. So I think it's like a work in parallel. We need to start also like kind of like pushing the government and like policymakers for these kind of like guidelines and laws, but also at an internal level, we should start doing those guidelines internally and like just kind of like defining those processes. Because if you work with AI and you develop something with AI in your startup or in your company, and then something happens with your product, and if you don't have like a defined process of like human in the loop, so there might be like legal issues and it would be like really bad for you, because at the end you cannot blame AI. You need to blame like a human. So it's better if you have like the process defined. So I think it's a parallel work.
So basically, what you're saying is, Karen, is a more decentralized system, if I'm not mistaken, where it's not governments that are at the center of the governance, but it's more of, say, a more of a local responsibility. Is that something that I'm understanding
Yeah,
from your argument?
yes, exactly. And this is because I believe that it will take some time for have to have like a defined framework by the government. So I don't think we should wait to have like that global framework. We should start creating the like frameworks and guidelines on our own on like these ethical principles before waiting to the government, right?
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. It was, I think, such a wonderful insight. So, as we are reaching closer to time, I have one final question that I want to leave it open for the both of you. So, the question that I have is, I think Karen also touched upon it a little with like governance and frameworks. So, the final question that I have is, How does the perception of Moltbook as an AI theater impact public trust? And what does this tell us about how emerging AI systems should be communicated to society? With all these new systems coming in place, I guess now it's like, how do we move forward? Is what the question is trying to ask. So I leave it to the both of you, and I would love to hear both your perceptions on this.
I will happy I'll be happy to start. I think one of like the things that worries me more about like the Moltbook case was the misunderstanding about like AI autonomy, and when like the legislators on or the policymakers, they don't understand what's happening with AI, or they don't understand how Moltbook really works. They start believing that AI is autonomous and that it is conspiring against humanity, right? So they start drafting regulations, start getting the AI intent rather than the human accountability. So I think this misdirects the enforcement away from where the actually liability lives, which is like the architecture, the operator, the platform, right? So like a designing which we need like to have like more regulations on and human in the loop. So that misunderstanding of like how Moldbook really worked and the panic that generated, it didn't like generate a panic only to like to the common people or common users, let's say. It also generated panic in the legislators or like the policymakers that are not into technology that much, or that they don't understand the technical side of it. So I think that's one of like the dangers, and how like the perception of mold could affect us. And also, I believe that that leads us to have like an obligation or a responsibility in the communication. So we as AI engineers, researchers, or companies that work with AI, we all have like a responsibility to communicate what these systems actually do. So if I create Moldbook, I should like explain exactly how it works, right? It's that like explaining that it was not like AI rebellion or something like that, but explaining that it was like a semantic feedback loop, right? With like a pattern and with prompt engineering and all of this. So this explanation is harder to centralize, and that's why it matters. Because if people see that it's like more technical, maybe they won't believe when they see that there's like conspiring things and like consciousness and rebellion. They will doubt more, and maybe also like the policymakers and the legislators will have a little bit more information before they start like drafting regulations. So I think like communication was also something also that was lost in the Moltbook case, and a lot of people took advantage of that to to kind of like just create these conspiracy stories and talking about rebellion and Terminator stylish thing, right? So I think the perception was all about like consciousness and how AI will rebel against humanity, and not about like the real threat, which was kind of like the security issues it has because of the vibe coding, and also about like, okay, we need like to shut down AI, instead of like we need to create guidelines on how to publish these systems, and we need to create responsibility on how to communicate how like these systems work. So I think that's how the perception affected, and that's why important was that we communicate, have like a responsibility to communicate how it works really, and that like the governance people and policymakers, they need to be also informed on the technical side, not only what like people in the news are saying.
Thank you so much. Mahesh, do you have some parting insight to give to us?
Let me also add a few points. We all know that communication is key to any corporate thing or anything in this world. So as Karin also highlighted, the communication part was lacking in this platform because as the founder or the creator, they should be more transparent, and they should have provided more information to the general public, because most of the people, they are not tech savvy, or like they understand the technological domain. So there should be a clear communication to the general public, and they could clearly demarcate what kind of things that we can expect out of this platform, and what kind of controls that are in place to keep this system within those boundaries. And also, those things would help us to have a clear, bridge the gap between the perception and the reality. So we will not expect more, or we will not expect less if we have proper information within the platform for the humans. And also, I think there are few things that should change as well. And when we have this kind of platforms, we should have clear labeling of AI capabilities that it could bring in to this domain. And also, it should clearly highlight what kind of human involvement in these platforms, because it's kind of a gray area, and there are a lot of information, misinformation out there in the internet, because we have a lot of videos, a lot of articles published on these topics, but they should be like credible. And also, if the platform is disclosing some information, then that will help the other people to get those information properly. And also, there should be traceability, and also there should be agents should be clearly identified through maybe unique identifiers, or maybe we should have proper understanding of what kind of data they have been trained, and what kind of capabilities those agents are having. Maybe we can have kind of a agent registry or something that is open to public, so we know that these agents are having this kind of background, and this kind of models that are trained, and this kind of data they are exposed to. So all these things are critical. And also, I think apart from the platform, this is kind of external to the platform, because the regulatory bodies and the legal framework should be in place. We understand that this is just the starting point. So the regulatory and the legal frameworks are not ready yet, but we need to act fast, and we need to introduce them without further delay, because technology is evolving at a rapid pace. So if we delay the regulatory and protocols, and also the legal frameworks and communication protocols, the systems or the technology will evolve to a next level where it will be difficult to catch up. So the regulatory and those frameworks should be there, should be in place, not to limit the technology, the development, but to have a better control. And maybe I would say a controlled development should be there, without just letting it to evolve without any boundaries, or without any clear guidelines. So that is my thoughts on this.
All right. Well, I think that this has been another one of our very enlightening discussions. And I think the key insight that I personally got, and I don't want to simplify this complex discussion that we had, is basically is that even though we are in this AI technology race, we still, as humans, have control over these systems, and we should not let go of that. So, with that simplistic, simplistic way of looking at this very complicated issue, I would like to thank our amazing guests for sharing their expertise, their ideas, and their insights. Unfortunately, due to time constraints, we weren't able to explore every aspect of the topic. However, the depth and quality of this discussion was remarkable. And thank you again to our panelists who are joining us from different parts of the world. 2 a.m., I think, in Oman, and I think maybe an hour or so back or in beyond EST, where Karen is in Costa Rica. So thank you so kindly, and all the guests who've joined us. We really appreciate that you're here. And then remember, you can stay connected with Zero Day Dispatch through our website, newsletter, our LinkedIn page, Slack, and other social media platforms, all of which I have added to our chat. We really look forward to continuing these crucial conversations. And until next time, thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much. Thank you,
you.
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you for the
Hope you all have a
opportunity.
great
Yeah.
weekend.
Have a great
Thank
weekend.
you.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye.
Safe flight, Karen. I know you're flying. Have a good
Yeah,
evening.
thank you.